throughout my life, I have been working for the Tibetan cause. So my 20 years as Member of Parliament, 7.5 years as Director of Tibetan Parliamentary and Policy Research Center in Delhi has really made me what I am today. In my function as the Speaker of Tibetan Parliament, during my 6.5 years, I believe I have achieved most of the things that I wanted to achieve as Speaker. And today, the proceedings of the Parliament, proceedings of the Standing Committee are very peaceful, all geared towards working for the Tibetan cause, not internal conflicts and all that. So, considering all those experiences and my own nature to be able to reach out to people, I believe I can be the people's Sikyong. Of course, there has to be a wish from the person who is standing for the post that you can do it. But if there is no support from the public, then it becomes difficult. You cannot get elected. Therefore, in the last more than 1 year, a lot of individuals have been approaching me and asking me to stand for the Sikyong's post. They believe that I'm the right person to take the job right now. And then the National Democratic Party of Tibet also came up with 2 candidates, me along with Dr. Lobsang Sengye, who is the incumbent Sikyong. And then later, the Central Tibetans from Usang, decided to support my candidacy with a high majority. And that was also a confidence-boosting thing that happened when I was touring the United States last month. If people want honest and hardworking Sikyong with experience of the Central Tibetan Administration and how to take things forward, then I believe I have a good chance. I have decided that I'm not going to do any anti-campaign during the campaign stage, whether it's during the preliminaries or for the final elections. So therefore, I'll be focusing only on issues, not personality. Now, some of the things that Dr. Lobsang Sengye has promised to the public are things that it's difficult to achieve, which many people got taken up at that time. But in reality, to execute certain things, it's almost impossible. Therefore, whether it's a matter of saying that I will make sure that His Holiness return to Tibet, or talking about educating 100,000 Tibetans inside Tibet and 20,000 in India. So those things are, I think, election promises that cannot be met, and my nature does not permit me to say things that I cannot fulfill. Of course, I concede that he works very hard. He has been traveling a lot. But at the same time, there are certain issues like in the education, in terms of educating Tibetan youth and taking over the Central Tibetan Administration from the Indian government. Initially, there were a lot of brouhaha about things being done very fast. But now it has been 3-4 years. And this is really impacting the schools and the students. If we lose a good education for Tibetan children for 3, 4, 5 years, we lose a generation, and that's a big loss. One of the achievements I think Lobsang made initially was to take advantage of the media attention. immediately following 2008 uprisings in Tibet and the spate of immolations since 2009, and also because His Holiness devolved his political and administrative responsibilities. So apart from that, it's very difficult to concretely pinpoint as to what exactly he had done. To sustain the Tibetan movement, it is essential that unity of the Tibetans are maintained. His Holiness in the last 50, 60 years have worked very hard to maintain this unity amongst provinces or amongst religious traditions. Now that is so very important for us to sustain our movement or to inspire our people inside Tibet or to keep the Tibetan issue alive in the international scenario, political scenario. And I believe that I have the capacity to take all the people from all three different provinces together. I have my experience as speaker, so and it's very important that we take people from all the three provinces. I have done that in the parliament, and I believe that I can do that in the general public as well, and among the leadership also. Now, secondly, Tibetans inside look for inspiration from Tibetans outside Tibet in His Holiness Dalai Lama. And Tibetans in exile look for inspirations from Tibetans inside Tibet. So therefore, the Central Tibetan Administration has to be strengthened. It has to follow the democratic norms, the democratic protocols, and we have to make sure that we have a very inclusive society. So whether and we are going through a huge social change right now. Tibetans are dispersing everywhere, so we have to make sure that all the Tibetans, whether it's in India, Nepal, Bhutan, or elsewhere outside Tibet, we have to reach out to every Tibetan, and I believe that I can take the three pillars of democracy together along with the people, along with all the Tibetan people who are dispersed. I've always said His Holiness is the one person who is the expert on Tibetan issue. So whether it's China experts who meet him or Tibetans who come from inside Tibet and brief him about the current situation inside Tibet, or whether it's Western experts on Tibet, or whether it's Western political leaders, people from the free world, he's the one who deals with all of them, and he proposed the middle way approach. And as an educated man, I have always studied through and through, not just believe him, with blind faith. I am completely convinced that His Holiness' proposal and the approach that has been unanimously approved by the Parliament is the one and only way and means for us to reach a lasting solution for the issue of Tibet. Because this approach is pragmatic, it's based on reality, and it's mutually beneficial, that can be acceptable to the Chinese leadership. So there is no doubt that Umelam is the best way forward. Now, negotiation as a process, we have gone through quite a number of processes in the last few decades. Now, it basically depends on the Chinese leadership. We are dependent on them, and we know for a fact that the solution to Tibet can come only from China, despite our effort to reach out to the international community to sustain the Tibetan issue. It's not as if the Chinese leadership doesn't know about the Tibetan position in the last 1 decade or so that we had dialogue. But it definitely shows that the Chinese leadership does not have the political will right now, and the hardliners believe that His Holiness is getting older. He's already 80, and as a human being, he might die in another 5-10 years, and the Tibet issue would normally be international. And they also believe that they can control the Tibetans inside Tibet with an iron fist. So that is very unfortunate. But there also seems to be a section within the Chinese leadership that believes that His Holiness is the key to resolving the Tibetan issue. There have been voices as to saying that His Holiness should be invited to Hong Kong, and maybe more religious freedom should be given to Tibetans. So we have to make sure that these forces gain strength within the Chinese leadership. And now, as His Holiness believes, we have to have this two-pronged strategy to reach out to the Chinese, ordinary Chinese people, among whom are intellectuals who have huge followings within China, and also to the Chinese leadership. Now, how do we reach out to the Chinese leadership? That can be through politicians, that can be through intellectuals, that can also be through business people. So to reach out to them, we have to strategize in such a way that we also harness the wealth of knowledge that Tibetan experts who watch over China have also, apart from Western experts and Chinese experts. Our effort has to be to explain to the Chinese leadership that resolving the Tibetan issue is in their benefit. Today, China has military power, political power, economic power, but the only power they lack is moral power. So by resolving the Tibetan issue, China can gain moral power in the world. They can be trusted by other nations. They can become or be trusted by their own people. So it's not just the Tibetans, but also the Chinese people, the Tibetan people, the Uyghurs, and the Mongols. But unfortunately, with Chinese policy of assimilation and in the name of development, we don't have much time. Within the Tibetan community, we discuss about going for complete independence or for Umelam and all that. But I always say another 30, 40 years down the line, forget about independence. If we are not able to go back, even autonomy may not make sense, because Tibet will be completely overwhelmed by a huge majority of Han Chinese. And in a few decades down the line, you might find Tibet towns in Tibet completely overwhelmed by Han majority. So that's the biggest danger, and that's why we always say we don't have much time. Therefore, to reach out to intellectuals, to reach out to ordinary Chinese, and to reach out to the Chinese leadership is the primary objective. Women have always played a very important role, but unfortunately in the Central Tibetan Administration and also I think elsewhere, once women get married, then their priorities get diverted. Even under the present circumstances, I think we have more women in CTA than men. But unfortunately, there are very few women at the top level. But now there are new trends coming up. We have quite a number of ladies in the rank of additional secretary, and unless they resign, they are going to assume important roles within the Central Tibetan Administration. Now what is important is to harness the younger generation of Tibetans, particularly women or girls who are going into colleges, and they will need, I believe that there should be a guardian-student relationship, so that students can have a regular connection with one of the political leaders or an official in the Central Tibetan Administration, so that they can always reach out to the concerned people. I have been conducting a workshop for grade 10, 11 and college-going students since 2003. But we have always said we need equal number, if not more, from girls in going to universities and college, in the schools. We have to encourage more girls to participate in the opportunities that are prevailing just right now. And then I think things are going to change for the better, particularly for women, because the social behavior is also changing. There's now a lot more respect for women and a lot more respect for women's wisdom and their patience and perseverance. So there also has to be effort from the women themselves that they will take up the responsibility. They will also need to commit themselves that they will not resign halfway through, go all out to reach wherever they have to reach. And there is already a section that is looking for women's empowerment, and I'm sure we can devise many more projects that will help women empowerment. Now, in the last few years, I see a decline in the Tibet support movement in terms of actual participation by foreigners, because that also happened because of the changes that I've been talking about earlier, the social changes that we are going through, because a lot more Tibetans are moving out. And there is always this question about whether the Tibetans now who have become citizens of other nations are Tibetans or Tibet supporters. So in my view, there has to be a clear delineation of the nature of organizations, whether it's Tibet support groups or Tibet communities or the offices of Tibet or the Tibetan parliamentarians. So from my point of view, under the Department of Information and International Relations, we reach out to the world community through the 12 or 13 different offices of Tibet all over, and we always have a shortage of manpower and financial power, resources. So therefore, we have to pool in all the resources together, whether it's the offices of Tibet, whether it's the Tibetan communities that needs to be empowered, particularly in Europe where there are more nations. The Tibetan communities can play a very positive role in reaching out to governments, to political leaders, and to intellectuals to raise the issue of Tibet or to work for the issue of Tibet. And the Tibet support groups, I think, has to be separated from the Tibetan communities, clearly delineated nature, and then they should be strengthened. Again, there has to be a revival of Tibet support group movement.